This is the concluding short video lecture pertaining to waste management. Throughout the prior short video lectures, I've talked about different types of waste and how we deal with them currently and what types of waste still have concerns. For example, nuclear waste, medical waste, and electronic waste. So, what should we do about solid waste? A sustainable approach is what we need to focus on. First, we want to reduce the waste material, then reuse it or recycle it, and then last step is to dispose of what is left over. There are three terms on the screen: waste management, waste reduction, and integrated waste management. Waste management is defined as controlling waste in ways that reduce environmental harm without trying to reduce the amount of waste produced. We do this by burying it, burning it, or shipping it to another location. Waste reduction is focusing on producing less waste, reusing the waste, recycling the waste, and composting existing waste. And then integrated waste management is employing strategies that focuses on proper waste reduction as well as waste disposal. So, some recommendations for dealing with municipal and solid waste. This is a figure that was created by the National Academy for Sciences. And on the left is what we should do, and on the right is what we actually do. Currently, about 67% of our waste is buried in landfills, and that's what a majority of our waste ends up. Then about 23% is recycled or composted, 9% is incinerated, 0.2% is reused, and less than 0.1% is reduced. We'd like to see a flip of this triangle and do more reduction and reuse and recycling and less incineration and ultimately less burying of the waste. So we're supposed to focus on the reducing and the reusing and then the recycling. So this diagram depicts integrated waste management, and the first priority in integrated waste management is primary pollution and waste prevention. Changing industrial processes to eliminate the use of harmful chemicals, using a less harmful product, reducing the packaging and materials and products, and making products that last longer or that are recyclable, reusable, or easy to repair. The second priority in integrated waste management is to reuse, repair, recycle, compost, and in an economy, focus on buying reusable and recyclable products. And then the last priority for IWM is to treat waste to reduce its toxicity, to incinerate the waste or bury it, and to release waste into the environment for dispersal or dilution. And that's in terms of like air emissions or discharges into streams and rivers. As far as pollution prevention is concerned, this was the first priority under the integrated waste management approach. You can manipulate the processes in a production process so that you can change the materials that are used, so that harmful pollutants are not produced. You can also find non-hazardous substitutes for hazardous materials, and then focus on reuse and recycling of solvents, lubricants, and byproducts within the corporate company framework. The other part of pollution prevention is converting hazardous material to less hazardous substances. So do some type of neutralization or thermal decomposition in order to stabilize the hazardous material so that it's not considered as hazardous, and then follow up also with safe disposal. This second and third bullet on your screen is not the optimal way of approaching it. However, not all waste can be eliminated by prevention or recycling or detoxification, so if that can't happen, then safe disposal has to be the final yet least sustainable option. So on the screen in front of you are 6 industrial strategies to reduce resource use and waste pollution. And I'm being a little bit repetitive here, but that's because it's important. Change industrial processes to eliminate or reduce the use of harmful chemicals. I want to point out from the very beginning of this presentation, we talked about types of waste, and I indicated in the beginning that 98% of our waste comes from facilities and corporations and industrial and agricultural practices. Again, 98.5% is coming from mining, gas production, agriculture, industry, and sewage sludge. Only 1.5% is coming from municipal solid waste from our homes, residential homeowners. So I'm really trying to focus here on the company aspect of things in terms of what they can do to make big changes. So changing the industrial processes to eliminate or reduce the use of harmful chemicals would definitely be cutting off the source of the problem, finding the root cause of it and stopping the problem from occurring. In other words, stopping these materials from getting out into the environment. Redesigning the manufacture process or redesigning the products to use less material and energy. Develop products that are easy to repair or reuse or recycle. Currently we're dealing with this electronics waste issue, and one way that we could tackle it is make computer systems and electronics easily recyclable. Right now it's a challenge to recycle these materials. Eliminate or reduce unnecessary packaging. We mentioned in prior weeks' lectures about the Pacific Garbage Patch and how much of what's in the Pacific Garbage Patch is packaging material and old plastic bottles and stuff. If you want to hit the pocketbook of Americans, then what you do is you put into place a fee per bag waste collection system. By doing that, plus instituting a good recycling system, you're going to have more people want to recycle than pay per bag to put their waste out at the curb. And then finally, pass laws that would require corporations, facilities, and industries to do waste minimization and waste pollution at their facilities. And again, I want to stress the fact that 98.5% of our waste that's generated in the U.S. comes from the commercial side of things, as opposed to residential municipal solid waste. So achieving a low waste society involves two different primary focuses. You and I at the individual level doing as much as we can to reduce and reuse items, and then recycle, compost, and then finally dispose of things. But this also needs to occur at the corporate level, especially since a majority of our waste is produced by companies throughout the United States. 98.5%, as I stated earlier. Also, we've stepped into some international treaties from a global perspective. The Basel Convention Treaty of 1992 bans the participating countries from shipping hazardous waste to or through countries without their permission. So we've actually have some treaties that have set up requirements whether you can ship hazardous waste or not. One of the reasons this was done was to deal with the persistent organic pollutants, or the POPs, known as the Dirty Dozen. The Stockholm Convention that occurred set up the list of 12 most regulated organic pollutants, and then set up the banning or phasing out of these chemicals. Again, this was based on an international coming together of countries recognizing the risk associated with those Dirty Dozen pollutants. Now, on a very simple personal level, you can do something as easy as stop the junk mail coming to your home. And there's a website here that you can click on to go to pursue how do you stop the junk mail from coming to your home. So let me give you an example of how some countries are dealing with waste. Denmark, Finland, and Prince Edward Island in Canada have banned all beverage containers that can't be reused. In fact, in Finland, 95% of all soft drink, beer, wine, and spirits are in containers that are refillable. Also, in Denmark, Ireland, Taiwan, and the Netherlands, they tax single-use plastic shopping bags. Hence, more people use reusable shopping bags as opposed to disposable shopping bags. In 2014, Hawaii became the first U.S. state to ban the use of these shopping bags. Other U.S. cities are following suit and banning the use of single plastic shopping bags. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Dallas, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. So we're making some headway in some of this, and here's some examples of what people have accomplished. And then finally, the waste disposals that we need to address. First of all, we need to clean up the messes that were already created, especially where they threaten drinking water supplies or public health. And there is the law that's in place to oversee how this can be done, and that's called the CERCLA law, which we've already talked about. The second thing is to regulate and make sure that the handling of the disposal of waste that's currently being done is done to protect public health as well as the environment. But most importantly, despite these two things, cleaning up past messes and dealing with current disposal of waste, most importantly is shifting our focus on waste minimization and pollution prevention. And that's the way we need to move forward. It's not as simple as just recycling. We need to find ways in order to reduce the amount of waste being generated by a growing population, reuse waste in ways that it can be beneficial to other sources as raw materials, and then do any kind of recycling and composting that we can do prior to the actual end disposal of the materials. I challenge each of you going forward from here that if you get involved with a company as part of your career, look for ways in which you can be part of projecting sustainable solutions regarding the processes within that company and the waste that's being generated. So it's more than something to do just on a personal level, but it's also something you can do within the career that you're working in. This concludes our short video lecture on waste management.